Hello everyone and welcome to Healing Kitchen. I'm Carly Smitherman. I've been with Waterford Place for several years now and thank you for joining us. Today we are going to be making a lentil sloppy joe. So the traditional sloppy joe is obviously made with ground beef. We're going to be making it with lentils today to make it vegan and a little bit healthier for us. I also decided last minute to show you how to make a healthier version to French fries. So we're going to be making baked sweet potato fries as well. So I'm going to start with our lentil sloppy joes so we can get those cooking while I share the recipe. Then I'll share the recipe about the sweet potatoes. All right, so first of all, what we need is lentils. That is the main ingredient for this recipe. So I'm going to be using green lentils for mine. There are other versions of lentils that you can use. The green lentils or brown lentils are normally the easiest ones to find in the grocery store. Lentils are great because they provide us with a lot of protein, but then they also provide us with other nutrients such as fiber, which is really important in our diet. So that's our main ingredient in this recipe. We're also going to be adding some veggies to it. So I'm excited about this recipe because you can really kind of use what veggies you want, but today I'm going to be just using peppers in it. So I diced up an orange pepper, red pepper, and green pepper, which will be added to this recipe. You could add carrots to it if you wanted, dice them up. Really adding more vegetables to it, especially if you mince them or dice them very small. You can sneak them in for into your recipe and you won't even be able to taste them, but you're getting that extra nutrition that we really love from like meals like this, where we can combine a lot of different ingredients and a lot of different things that provide great nutrition. We're also going to be using an onion. So I just chose a traditional white onion. You could use a sweet onion if you would like for this recipe as well. It really goes off of your taste. So like I was saying, I recommend dicing or mincing the vegetables for this recipe so we don't lose that texture that we're looking for that you would normally get in a sloppy joe. And also, traditionally, I don't know, when I was growing up, my mom made sloppy joes a lot for us, so I'm thinking more of it as like a meal that would be kid friendly. And this way you can add in some extra nutrition. But if you like the taste of peppers, you like the texture of peppers and onions when you crunch into a sandwich, you could also just chop them and leave them more in their integrity than dicing them up. So I have my skillet here. We want to put a skillet on medium low, and we're going to saute our vegetables first. So today I'm going to actually use grapeseed oil to saute the vegetables. You could use avocado oil, or I would also recommend canola oil. These oils have a higher smoke point, so it's better for us when we are sauteing. I'm just checking my temperature here. So let's see. I'm putting about a tablespoon of oil in there. I'm going to heat it up a little bit, and then I'm going to add my onions. Let's see. So I'm using, as you can see, a tabletop skillet. This is about the size that I would recommend for this recipe because we're going to be adding quite a few things to it, including liquids. So having a nice rim like that is going to be very helpful here and eliminate a little bit of mess you might get on the stove. So I've already diced my onion here. Pop it on. That's a loud onion. I apologize. I hope you can still hear me. We're also going to add some minced garlic. So we need about 2 cloves of minced garlic. What I love about garlic is it has some great health benefits as well as delicious flavor. So if you really love the taste of garlic, you could add a little bit more, like a 1/3 clove of garlic. So I chopped up 3 peppers. We're really not going to need that much for this recipe. I'm just going to use a little bit from each one. The recipe you'll be getting from Omar does say 1 large pepper, or you could do a half of 2 peppers. I just love all the beautiful color and the different taste that you get from adding the different peppers. So I'm adding my green and red pepper right now. We're just going to saute it till the onions turn translucent. Since I pretty much minced my peppers, it shouldn't take very long for them to become tender. So we may only need to do this for about 2 minutes. I'm going to add a little bit more red pepper to this. There's a large one in there. A little bit more green. Perfect. So once that starts cooking nicely, I can see that the onions becoming translucent, like I said. So I'm going to start adding some of the wet ingredients to this. So what we will need either is a low sodium vegetable broth to keep this as a vegan dish. And we will also need some tomato sauce. So I recommend if you're in the grocery store looking for tomato sauce that you always go for the no salt added, reduced sodium, or something that has the health or the heart check on it from the American Heart Association. That just gives you an indicator that it's a little bit healthier for you. Less sodium is always better. And I just chose a 100% all natural one here. So we're going to need 1 whole can of tomato sauce. So we're going to add these to our skillet. What's really nice about this recipe is it is a 1-pan recipe. So that means cleanup is a lot easier than some other recipes are. So we got that in there. We're going to need 2 cups of the low sodium vegetable broth, or if you are trying to reduce your sodium even more, you could just use water. This, the reason I'm using the vegetable broth is to add a little bit more flavor to it, but the liquid really is to help cook the lentils. So if you use water instead of vegetable broth, that's perfectly fine, and it will actually, like I said, reduce the amount of sodium in this dish. So we'll combine all of that together, and then we're going to move on to our spices and other additives that are going to give it the flavor. So I have a couple options here. The recipe does call for tamari sauce, which is a gluten-free form of soy sauce. So if you have soy sauce in your refrigerator and prefer to use that, you may. This is a reduced sodium tamari sauce that I normally use. You can find it at any store. Another suggestion or recommendation that you could use is liquid aminos. So this is a natural soy sauce alternative. I hope you all can see this. It's lower in sodium as well. And a lot of people have been switching to it to get away from those high sodium soy sauces that you see on the shelves at the grocery stores. So I'm just going to reduce the heat a little here. Yeah, so we're going to add about a tablespoon of that for some flavor. So we're also going to need some apple cider vinegar. We don't need a lot of it, just a 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, a little acidic there. And then, so another option that we have is with our sweetness, because we want to make this a little tangy. We have two, actually more than 2 options, but within the recipe you will be receiving, you have 2 options that I provided. You could use 100% pure maple syrup. This keeps it as a vegan dish as well. Or you could use coconut sugar. I use coconut sugar a lot, so I have it in a jar. You could use coconut sugar to add that sweetness. You could also use a little bit of agave in place of either one of these. Or if you are okay with honey, if you're more of a vegetarian, just want a meatless dish to add into the cycle of all your dishes that contain meat, honey is a great alternative as well. Again, the flavor is a little bit different than if you were to use maple syrup. So we want 1 tablespoon if you're going to be using the coconut sugar. We want 1 to 2 tablespoons. So uncertain if we have any new guests here tonight on the call. So I'll tell you why coconut sugar is a great alternative to our regular cane sugar. Coconut sugar is a more natural, it is less processed than regular sugar, and it also provides us extra nutrients because it does come from an actual plant. It comes from a fruit. So with that being said, another great thing about coconut sugar is it is a great alternative to sugar for people who may be diabetic or pre-diabetic, and it does not increase your blood sugar as quickly as normal white cane sugar does. Okay. So next I'm going to add my lentils to this, and we're going to start letting it simmer, I should say, and that's going to cook up really nicely. So you do not have to cook your lentils ahead of time. Your lentils will cook nicely in this mixture. Some other seasonings that we're going to add are chili powder, smoked paprika, and missing one, and cumin. So we have, that's going to add our little bit of extra spice to this. In the recipe, I called for 1 teaspoon of each. If you really, really want this to be spicy, go ahead and add a little bit more. You can always add more as you're cooking. As most chefs do, they do taste their recipes as they're cooking, so you can always add more. So I suggest starting with less and adding more as you get closer to the end. So we're going to let this simmer for about 25 to 30 minutes. All right. So while that's simmering, not really, I'll show you the end product, but I'm not going to finish cooking that right now because I want you to be able to see how to make the sweet potatoes. So, sweet potatoes are so delicious, and this is just a great way to add some extra nutrition to something that you might already be making at home. I've already cut up some of the sweet potatoes to start baking. So what I do when I'm making these sweet potatoes is I'll use about 4 sweet potatoes, scrub them down, and yes, keep the skin on because that gives us some extra nutrition, some extra fiber there. If you want to be an extra cautious, maybe just because you are in chemo treatment or just because of the way the world is right now, with germs and everything, you could peel the outside of your sweet potatoes just to be more cautious and make sure that they're clean. No, we don't know who's been telling them at the grocery store, but I have washed mine ahead of time. Also, when we bake them, a lot of the germs are going to be baked away, just as another little note for you all. So we cut them in half, and then I slice them again, and then again. So they become about like fry size, nicely. So my recipe calls for 4 sweet potatoes. You can cut that in half, depending on how many people are in your household, how many people you're cooking for. This right here, if you could see it, it's just a normal sized bowl. This was just 1 sweet potato, so it's a pretty good amount probably for 1 or 2 individuals to snack on. So we're going to cut up these 4 sweet potatoes, and then we'll be adding some delicious spices to it. And this pairs very well with the Sloppy Joes because it has similar seasonings on it. So I'll be using smoked paprika, garlic powder, just a little bit of salt, and black pepper for this. So I'll also be drizzling a little bit of olive oil on it. So that came out quite fast. About 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil, depending on how many sweet potatoes you cut up. This is a recipe that I like to do with my daughter because I let her, after she washes her hands, of course, get in and help by using her fingers to mix up the sweet potatoes and the oil, and then I let her put them on the baking sheet. So, and then we're going to be adding our seasonings to it and mixing it all together. So this recipe for these sweet potato fries has a little bit of a kick to it. If you do not like spicy things at all, eliminate the smoked paprika. I say still keep the garlic, a little bit of salt and pepper. Again, you can find the exact amounts that I use for the paprika and the garlic on the recipe that I'm sending you, but it's about 1 1/4 teaspoons that I use of the paprika and the garlic powder. And then with the salt and pepper, I normally don't measure out as much, but about 1/2 teaspoon of sugar would probably, maybe even 1/4 would work, suffice. If even, there's enough spice here. You probably don't even need the salt. All right. Once you have that all mixed together nicely, you line a baking sheet. I recommend putting parchment paper down on this sheet and just lay them out the best you can. Four sweet potatoes sometimes might take up the whole baking sheet. You may need to, depending on how big your baking sheets are. We're going to then bake these for about 15 to 20 minutes at 425. All right. Doesn't that look nice? Throw that on in there. I lost my. All right. So, once our sloppy joes are done, they're going to look like this. We like to put them on a baked whole wheat bread. So I just throw the bread in the oven for a couple of minutes to toast it on up. Put the lentil sloppy joes on, and as you can see here, I added some red onions and pickles. You can really add whatever toppings you would prefer. Again, the sweet potato fries, we want to cook for about 15 to 20 minutes until they're nice and crispy, and then come out this beautiful color. Does anyone have any questions about those two recipes? The sloppy joes you can put in the refrigerator and keep it up to about 4 days. If you want to freeze it, you can freeze it and take it out, and I would recommend cooking it in the skillet before serving it again. That is the two recipes for today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the recipes or any of the ingredients or anything else.
Does the